Hello, Somerset County, and welcome to this edition of the Scoop Podcast. My name is Chris Edwards, President of the Chamber. Welcome to today's show. We have three organizations that have supported the launch of this podcast. Our partners at Unity Bank, Techie Geek, and our third partner, who's our guest for today's podcast. Thank you for joining me, Somerset County Administrator Colleen Mahr.
Thank you.
Colleen oversees the day-to-day operations of nearly 2,000 employees, some of which we'll get into in a little bit. And good morning, Jessica Paolini.
Good morning.
Jessica is oversees the newly created Office of Economic Development, which is going to be the discussion that we go through today. So welcome both to the podcast.
Thanks.
It's really, first off, it's awesome to see all this in action. I feel like I've been talking to both of you about this for 2 or 3 years, and it's just really exciting as we've launched these first initial shows to kind of see something we've envisioned, come to reality. I'm going to start with an outrageously broad question, in my opinion. But how does the county define economic development, and what do you believe are the impacts on our residents here in the county?
Sure. So thanks again for having us. It's a really great tool for us to be able to come here and talk about what we do on a day-to-day basis. I've had the pleasure of serving as the administrator for a little over 4 years, and my background is in economic development, and so I thought it was important to really start to focus on making sure that the economic health and the landscape of Somerset County is always the number one priority, and to actually start talking about that out loud. And so for me, economic development is making sure that government understands, what's happening on our local economy. And that is both a combination of what's happening in the private sector, who is here, how are they doing, what do they need. We never really want to find out when of our employers are in trouble or maybe are being lured out of this county without really us understanding that and then maybe trying to proactively go after that. Right? So it's really two sides of the coin. It's what's our private sector doing and the economy that they put into Somerset, and then how are our residents benefiting from that so that the effects of how our social quality of life balance with the business sector.
And Jessica, I mean, your background's in economic development. Can you talk a little bit about coming into the county, maybe a little bit of your background, and then more of a from a day-to-day standpoint here?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. So I've been at the county for almost 3 years now, and really relevant to this question about defining economic development, coming into a government where we have a leader who has a background in economic development is really important. In other spaces where I've worked, I've spent a lot of time explaining what is economic development. And here I am able to run with ideas because Colleen really intimately understands the work that we do and the importance of it. So I've been able to do things here in Somerset County that I firmly believe I wouldn't have been able to do anywhere else because of her background and leadership. So I've been doing economic development for about 12 years now, all in New Jersey, but working for different types of employers. So a nonprofit, Choose New Jersey, is where I started out. I've also worked in higher education at Rutgers and then in a couple of county governments now. So I've gotten to see how economic development is done at the state level, at a university level, and then also at a local government level. And you started off this question talking about how it's such a broad topic, and it really is. I'm actually working on my PhD right now, and it's on this topic of how do you define economic development. And really, it's evolving. Historically, it's been about businesses and about job creation. But the definition that I like the most is one that is human-centered. So it's about making sure that our residents, our people, have an opportunity to live the kind of life they desire. And that means having access to good jobs, not just any job, but well-paying jobs. It means having a diversity of jobs in our communities, from entry-level to experienced, across a range of industries, so that people can find something that fits their interests, their talents, their background, and then making sure that people can get training and access those jobs. So that's why investments in our county college are critically important. And then our infrastructure. Can people travel on our public transit? Can they travel on our roads to get to their jobs? So all of these things benefit the business community, but it's really centering our residents and people in that definition so that all the decisions we're making are benefiting our residents by working and supporting our business community.
And I just want to kind of piggyback on that before we head into a couple other questions is, for myself and Jessica, we take ultimate direction from the 5 county commissioners that the voters put into office because they have a vision. And I think, just as it is for Jessica to feel like she's in the right place at the right time doing this, I do too. Right? Because we've got such strong leadership in Chanel Robinson and Melanie Morano, Sarah Suey, Doug Singletary, and Paul Drake, who allow us to make sure that the economic well-being of Somerset County is a real priority. And they give us the tools and the runway to then actually do the good stuff that we're doing here. And that brings us here today and kind of taking, some highlights of what we're doing and making sure the people understand it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point, Colleen, because at the partnership, I get to see all 5 commissioners in action through different lenses, right? So whether it's Commissioner Singletary with Healthier Somerset, Paul Drake does a lot of work on our sustainability. Sarah and Chanel as our liaisons come to every event, and Melanie's been very active across all different
all around the county
parts. And that's they're getting a lot of input, right, from businesses, residents, and they're taking that input and probably coming back to both of you looking for outputs, which I can imagine can be a difficult part of the job.
Well, but part of our responsibility is to take their visions, right, and what they hear on the ground, and then to, bring it back to the office, talk about it, and figure out how we can make that actually a reality. And some of the stuff that we've been doing in the last 2 or 3 years has been sort of quieter stuff, to kind of get ready for some of these more breakthrough programs that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and I think I've been in the partnership now 12 years, and I've seen an evolution in economic development. What have both of you seen over your careers, and where do you think the office is transitioning to in the future in some of these projects you're doing?
Right, sure. So you remember that the Office of Economic Development actually sat in Somerset County Business Partnership, for a little while. And so when I came on, I knew that we needed to really bring it back in-house in government where it sort of belonged, and so that we could hire additional staff and then leverage our state, local, federal partners in bringing in some of the incentives in the program. So we've actually seen a great evolution of the types of businesses that are actually coming here. We have strong main streets. We've got our mom and pops, which we'll talk a little bit about, but we've been really watching the type of sort of multinational companies that could go anywhere, right? But we find that they're coming here.
Yeah, in terms of the evolution of how economic development is being done, I would say we're being very proactive today. So we have a lot of great data resources at the county, and we can see who's here in the county and then proactively reach out to them before they're even thinking about making a decision about investment or hiring. We want to make sure that we have a relationship with those companies now so that when they are ready to make these big decisions, they know to call us, they know the resources that are available. I would say, too, to Colleen's point, that we are seeing some changes in the types of companies that are coming here. It's less about going out into the world, right, and trying to attract companies. Of course, that'll always be a part of economic development, but we are also really prioritizing retention and making sure that the businesses that are here have the resources, the support they need to stay and grow. And if Somerset County is not the right fit, then it's making sure that they end up somewhere nearby so that our residents can still access those jobs. I think you're seeing a lot more collaboration regionally where we work closely with other counties within New Jersey, and that's been a really exciting thing to experience, having worked in the state for so long. Many of us now know each other and have great relationships, and it's really about making New Jersey stronger and not competing so much on a county-to-county level. And then I think you're seeing, too, a lot more diversity within the field of economic development with people coming in with all different backgrounds, Like many professions, you're seeing a lot more young people coming into the role and bringing some new energy. So it's an exciting time to be within the profession.
It is, and I think that part of what we have to kind of always keep our eye on is what sort of infrastructure do we have that we can make sure that people who are looking to expand or looking to relocate know about, right?
Right.
So I think in New Jersey, we know that some of these suburban sprawling campuses really have sort of reached their end of the road, right? And then how do you do adaptive reuses that still allows the local government to retain, a taxpayer entity? How do you work with our local partners to understand what their vision is, right, for a transformation of sort of these office campuses, while also remaining competitive of where people want, right? So we're seeing, what some of these companies want and what they don't want, right? They want more Class A office space. They want more space that is close to a vibrant downtown so that coming out of COVID, their employees can start to come back to work full time. They can walk downstairs. They can walk outside. Sort of the isolation of a campus is sort of changing, and I'm sure you're seeing that. And part of our job is to make sure some of those larger campuses with significant acreage is that we understand what's happening there, right? So the Bedminster Tech Center, we want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so the Bedminster Tech Center is the former AT&T campus, and it has been rezoned. Mayor Jacobs really deserves a lot of credit for being proactive and recognizing years ago that there was potential for change at that campus. And we are happy that AT&T has stayed in the county and stayed in Bedminster, actually just moved a mile or so down the road and right-sized, right? Because all of their employees are not coming in every day, but they still wanted to be in Bedminster. So they found a new space, better fit in terms of size. And so we have this campus, which is a tremendous asset because the infrastructure there, the fiber infrastructure, really was overbuilt. That campus was actually a communications hub for the U.S. And so we have this tremendous asset that has now been rezoned, and it's been rezoned for aseptic manufacturing, which a couple years ago I didn't know what that was either. But that is essentially clean manufacturing. It's manufacturing that supports cell and gene therapy, manufacturing done in a clean room to make sure that there's no pollutants or bacteria, anything, right, getting in to affect the manufacturing process. So it's a really clean form of manufacturing. And it's also zoned for multi-tenant use, which is important. Colleen talked a bit about the flight to quality. And another trend is a lot of these companies, they want to be around other types of businesses.
Right,
they want it to feel like more of a community environment. So it's zoned for multi-tenanted, it's zoned for amenities like a hotel, and it's up to 200 square feet of development, which is hard to come by in this part of New Jersey. So really excited about the potential opportunities there. And then toward...
2 million.
I'm sorry?
2
million square feet, 200 acres.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, so huge property.
It's hard to believe. I mean, we did events there at the Global Network Operations Center, and it was like you were in Disney World here in Somerset County. They would take you on a tour. You would get to see and you walk away from that facility going, I can't imagine anyone else using this once AT&T left. So to be able to get this far, I know there's still work to be done. But I think that's something to be celebrated, just in the fact that
Thank you.
this is moving and it's not going to be.
And that's an example of sort of how a county can do economic development, right? Because, the county of Somerset was really involved with the mayor and the town for a long time about their master plan, their zoning, what is it that they wanted, how did that interact and interlock with the county's vision and also the county's master plan. So, that's a really great partnership. And then also understanding we needed to make sure that we were focused on harnessing the greatest potential of a reuse there and not to let it just sit and go fallow. And so I think, and that is having to do with legislation, right? We had found ourselves working with the EDA. We found ourselves commenting on legislation, lobbying on behalf of Somerset County, really, to make sure, because language matters in a lot of these incentives, and so that we didn't necessarily kind of not pay attention, and then when we realized we would have the right tenant, and then maybe lose out on something.
Right.
You know, so it's been a really great partnership, and now we're proactively out there trying to market it.
No, it's there's a lot of exciting potential in what is a scary situation with, to your point, the change in these larger companies. One of the biggest things I've seen in the evolution of economic development is, I mean, if you go back to the 70s and 80s, as the highways sprawled out in the Somerset County, companies were coming out here regardless of in any economic development office. It was the location and the size of these big corporate facilities. Now the county has to play offense, and I think both of you have recognized that. And offense means not, to your point, not going out and searching for companies to move in, but being proactive in finding solutions, whether that's a small company or a large company. But before you could do that, you actually need tools in the toolbox to retain them, because just going to their door and saying, we'd like you to stay, does not work in this day and age. So can you talk about some of those tools you have in your toolbox?
Sure, and that is a really important piece of the charge of the Somerset County Commissioners, is to really make sure that we work and understand who's here, and make sure that we can always, we're right there. So another example of really being ready, and we can integrate that, is what's going on with the Somerset Innovation Center over at 23 Orchard in Montgomery. Another example of some space that really had to be put into, that was a 44-acre campus, and how do we just let that not stay vacant, but really kind of work with a wide range of companies to make sure that the Somerset Innovation Center becomes almost like an accelerator, a startup accelerator for the county. And all of that goes back to why people should come to Somerset County, right? And how do we get that message out? And that is a tool that I had said earlier that we've sort of been working behind the scenes on trying to figure out our story, our marketing, in a way that really is competitive, because right now it is a very competitive market, just not in New Jersey, but nationally for companies.
Right, yeah.
We go to a lot of conferences, and, we are there talking with, representatives from, companies that are also talking to New Jersey, but California and Texas, and, South Carolina, North Carolina, Massachusetts. So we figured out that one of the things we had to do was really give the tools to people that are searching to either stay here, expand, or relocate. And we came up with this really first of the kind in New Jersey, first of a county to do, which is called Why Somerset. And I'm going to let Jessica kind of take a little victory lap on this, because it really is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. So Why Somerset is a talent attraction tool. And it's important because when companies are making a decision, whether they're already here or they're elsewhere, and they're thinking about changing the physical footprint, making some type of investment in their facility, the number one consideration for businesses is access to talent. That's why so many of our companies are here in Somerset County, here in New Jersey. And economic development has been shifting. Gone for the most part are the days where organizations are out trying to identify companies and lure them. Recognizing that companies are going to follow talent, you're seeing a lot of locations shift and actually focus their marketing and their efforts on individuals, oftentimes young professionals, trying to get them to move into your community, and then the companies will follow. And so we have so much talent here in Somerset County and in New Jersey, and Why Somerset really gives that information, the data points about the talent we have here, but then the jobs. So for trailing spouses, where could a trailing spouse work? What are the amenities when you live here? What schools are you going to send your kids to? And this became really important for us to develop this tool, because we were having conversations with many of our local employers, being proactive, going out, establishing relationships with them. And we were hearing regularly that their HR teams were receiving new questions it wasn't just about the benefits. It wasn't just about the hybrid schedule. They were getting questions like, well, if I move there, where do I send my kids to school? If I move there, what do I do on the weekend? Is there a single family home that I can afford to buy, right? So these companies came to the county and asked us, can you help us put together a package of information that answers these questions? And we started off literally with a package of information, but knowing that we wanted to evolve into a site that could be more dynamic, interactive. We have the ability to update it, feature companies, and I also want to acknowledge the business partnership in your role in really piloting this type of website. There was a Y Somerset, 0.5 or 1.0 or whatever we want to call it. And so we were able to take over the Y Somerset web link, but also really get a lot of the input and the great feedback from the site that you had initially developed from the business community, and then really take it to the next level and focus our target audience. So we just rolled that out this past fall, and we've gotten some great feedback so far. So for our listeners, if you have a business in the county, please check out Y Somerset. And if there's information you'd like for us to add, reach out, because that's the point. It's supposed to be interactive. So.
Yeah, I think that what we've recognized here is that there's so many good things about living and working and doing recreation here in Somerset County. And when we started to pull it together, we saw very quickly, right, we're like the number one county to live in New Jersey. We're the number one county to raise a family. We're number one county in New Jersey for our outdoor activities, and the second county in New Jersey to buy a house, which is, a dream for many people. We're fiscally, really strong. We keep our AAA bond rating at the county, which means a lot to us. We've got Raritan Valley Community College here, which is number one in career training, and we've been spending a lot of time with the county college to invest in sort of non-traditional ways that we can make sure that our residents have access to well-paying jobs if they don't technically want to go through a 4-year college route, or that they're trying to figure out a second career. And ultimately, we know that we are located really beautifully for companies to come in, right, between New York and Philadelphia, along the eastern seaboard here. You can find us pretty quickly, and you can, move around the county just as well. So all of that we packaged up into this really creative Y Somerset. And we recognize that we hit on something really good, because we realized that there was no such thing, even close to it, that we could send out. And so we're really excited and proud to be able to do that.
No, it's another thing that was identified a few years ago that it's really exciting to see live and in living color. Right on the other side of the wall here from us, we have a masterminds group of small business owners meeting right now, and I guarantee you, if we went in there and polled them, 17 of the 20 who are in there will say talent is their number one issue right now with their business. So it's even that this has impacted the small business. It just so happens that if you have a staff of 7 and you're missing one person, it can really cripple the business, just like if you're trying to hire 20 people at a larger company. So I think you're really, this is a tool not only for the largest companies in the county, but any company in Somerset County. It's really exciting to see.
Yeah, I think we would, we need to make sure that we also equally give attention to what we call our small businesses. And we know that our main streets were really hurt during COVID, and the vibrancy there and the jobs, they really felt it. And so we, along with yourself, right, which is really nice, which makes the Somerset County Business Partnership and the County of Somerset, really this public-private partnership, really so unique and so strong when you look at other examples around the New Jersey. We're kind of first to none, really.
Right, absolutely.
And so really investing in the partnership, and allowing you, to do what you do best, right? And then we're here to support that in various ways, to focus on our small businesses, right? To create the hub, right, which is a way for our small businesses who really aren't maybe members of the chamber itself, right, because they can't, right, because they're in the stores working 7 days a week, right. It was important for the commissioners, myself and Jessica, to give them resources, right? So with your move here, relocating to downtown Somerville, and creating the space, that we kind of love calling the hub, it really is it really shows, again, the focus on economic development is just not left to the large employers, but it needs to be equally focused on the smaller employers. And smallers can be 10, 5, employees, 1, 2 employees. It doesn't really matter.
No, and it's those companies that potentially could grow into the next 2,000 person business. I certainly want to take this opportunity to give both of you and the commissioners your recognition for the business hub. We've only been open to the business public for about 5 months within this space, and we've seen the conference room is occupied on average 32 hours a week. We've engaged over 3,000 businesses, half of which are new in an engagement. Our training sessions are booked, and at the old space that would have meant 12. Now it's 50, so that's a big improvement for us. So again, it was that taking the action items from a few years ago and turning it into reality, and we couldn't do that without the county's investment. So it's not just the large companies your office is going to help, but I really believe that your investment in the partnership goes beyond that with our small business community too.
Great.
Anything else before we get to the lightning round? Is there any other topics or anything that you wanted to hit on before we transition to the rapid fire section?
The one thing I would add, Colleen referenced the county's investment in Raritan Valley Community College, and I think it's worth sticking with that for a minute. So RVCC serves Somerset and Hunterdon County, and in the work that we've been doing with our Office of Economic Development, rolling out these resources, the first thing we had to do was really understand what industries are here in Somerset County. And we put together a database. We have over 600 companies now, which really helps us understand who's here, how we can best support and connect them. And one of those industries that really has sort of grown organically because of its adjacency with the life sciences is cosmetics and personal care. And Somerset County is actually one of the top 20 counties in the nation for employment in personal care. So you have companies like Haleon, which is headquartered in Warren, KDC1 right here in Somerville, companies like Reckitt Benckiser that are making these products that all of us are using every day. The Lysol, Haleon makes the Sensodyne toothpaste. So this industry uses a lot of the same assets as the life sciences, the lab space, the same type of talent pool. As the life sciences industry has evolved, moving more into personalized medicine, they have a need to hire a lot of people who know how to work in clean rooms. And again, it's this clean manufacturing. We talked a bit about the aseptic manufacturing at the Bedminster Tech Center. So the county has invested $3 million of ARP money to help RVCC develop 2 clean rooms where individuals will be able to go into a clean room environment, learn how to do the gowning, the documentation. And the really exciting thing about the clean rooms is it won't only benefit the pharmaceutical companies with their cell and gene therapy work, but it will benefit cosmetics and personal care because they also produce a lot of their products in clean rooms. It can benefit the semiconductor industry, which uses clean rooms, food and beverages. So understanding the industries that we have here has allowed us to make these really strategic investments to support not just one industry, but a range of industries. And then it goes back to the very beginning, that definition of economic development about centering our residents who will be able to now come to RVCC and get trained in a clean room, something they can't do at any other county college in New Jersey, in what are very well-paying jobs with a lot of career growth potential and the ability to work for employers all over Somerset County.
So as we sort of wrap up, I think that is another example of what economic development is here in Somerset County, right? So, and where government actually has a place, right? And, we can help guide, what we see as trends because we're seeing the entire playing field. So whether it's the big companies, it's the mom and pops, the main streets, how to create good paying jobs for our residents to keep them here, right? To go to school here, to go to RVCC, or to come back from a traditional four-year college and come home and understand that there is a place to get good paying jobs. There is housing that we can find here. So put it all together, gives the Office of Economic Development here in Somerset County.
Yeah, there's probably, I could think of 40 success stories just off the top of my head. One I think that's prevalent now because of their unveiling of their new space is LabCorp in Raritan. That was one, and I think that it puts a spotlight on what county government can do, because that was an issue about 6-7 years ago where LabCorp was planning on leaving Raritan, which would have been devastating to the town. The town wasn't really locked in on it. They were, there's always a million other things, as going on day to day in a municipality, and the state wasn't in on it either. So just having someone in the middle there kind of jumping up and down, just from a very basic standpoint. So I think it's really important as we celebrate the opening of LabCorp's addition, that we thank the county for doing that, because that had a real ripple effect on the entire area. Like I said, we could probably talk about 20, 30 more. I'm sure we will as we have you back on the podcast. We're going to transition to our lightning round, which I was mentioning to Jessica before we started. A lot of our viewers have used those as openers for when they're out and they might see you at an event. We were at the hospital for a networking event, and they went up to the president of the hospital, Deirdre, and said that they heard her on the podcast and they heard about her favorite places to go and stuff. So I think these are really cool lightning round questions. One thing I need to do, I need to pay the bills real quick. So I just want to read an ad from our friends at Techie Geek, who sponsors the podcast. They are your trusted IT superheroes. They specialize in keeping businesses connected, secure, and thriving. From advanced cybersecurity to seamless cloud solutions, Techie Geek has you covered. Visit techiegeek.com or check them out on social at Techie Geek to see how they can power your business forward. So again, this is one of my favorite. I know it's really tough from a county perspective sometimes to narrow it down, but of course, try your best. So start with our usual layup. What's your favorite place or places to eat in Somerset County?
So I'll go first. So I've had a chance to spend some time here and go over, throughout the 21 towns, great towns. And one of the things that I found is that there are so many great restaurants, but we also recognize as part of doing economic development that it would be good for us to help update the restaurant guide.
Yes.
Right. And so while I have some favorites, I'm going to use my time to give a plug to the restaurant guide, which we are doing here to help all our small businesses, our restaurants ahead of the FIFA World Cup, right? And to really celebrate the beautiful diversity of the food that we have here and increase awareness of our restaurants and our bars. So I'm going to do a shout out for anyone listening that may be in the food and beverage industry to, reach out to either yourself or us to make sure that they're in that restaurant guide.
And being based in downtown Somerville, I'm going to pick a couple of Somerville restaurants. So Kaima and Turf Surf and Earth are my go-tos. Turf Surf and Earth, I always feel good about what I'm eating. And then Kaima is just a great environment for a business meeting and great food.
Yeah, it's been one of the it's a two-sided coin for us here at the partnership. We've really enjoyed all the food here in Somerville, and sometimes we've overindulged and been out to eat too many times here in Somerville. So both of you have been part of our events as keynote speakers, as panelists. Is there an annual partnership event you look forward to the most?
Well, I love the annual meeting, right, which was just held not too long ago, right before the holidays. And I think the thing I like the most, and you've talked about it, Chris, is the recognition of the 40 under 40. We talked so much about talent today, and so that's a venue where we get to come and we get to see all of the talent in the county and celebrate the work that they're doing and hope that
And
they're
you're a
going to
winner,
stay.
2023
Yeah.
winner.
I am. Thank you. Yes, but that's a great event, and you really feel like the whole county is there in the room together, and it's a time where we all get to celebrate the wins of the past year, and just a beautiful venue as well.
Yeah, I thought that event has really evolved too, and I to your point, I'm glad you recognize that because it's so hard to get these businesses to get together at events. You know, people are working from home, they're working way further than they typically have from their companies. So to have one event a year where you know you're going to have all the major employers, elected officials, all the leaders in the county at one luncheon is still extremely valuable.
My favorite business partnership event is the International Women's Day event. I have really enjoyed attending that over the last several years and sort of watching the dynamic speakers. But what is equally, I think, wonderful for me is to look out into that audience and see the diversity of really, strong, powerful, well-educated, career-minded women doing fabulous things, coming together, sitting there, celebrating one another. We take it as an opportunity to take two tables and to bring some of the women that we know are really doing some great work, being public servants behind the scenes and celebrating them too.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to see the growth of that event. Get your tickets now for the fourth annual on March 6th. We've had the first event was 100, then 200, then 300. So a lot of pressure on us to get to 400 this year, but we'll be unveiling the panel and keynote here soon. If you're listening to this, we probably have, but we're really excited for that event coming up. When you're out talking about Somerset County, whether that's at business meetings or it just could be at home with family, is there any hidden gems from a tourism standpoint that you point to?
Well, I actually live in Mercer County, and I'm not sure how many people take advantage of public libraries in the digital age, but the library system in Somerset County, and in particular the newest library in Montgomery, is something that I travel from home to come into Somerset County to use that library. The design is beautiful. There's a fireplace, like a little lounge area. I have an 8-year-old son, and there's a machine that collects your books and takes it down a conveyor belt, and that alone is exciting for him. And then you can access museum passes. There's so many things that you can get at a library other than books. And so we drive the 25 minutes just to go to that library. It's really beautiful if you haven't been.
I'm going to give a shout out to our park system. I honestly believe that the park system within Somerset County is the best in the state of New Jersey, just because of the diversity of the facilities that we have, from active to passive and then ultimately some of the most beautiful vistas that I have ever seen. And you can do real hiking, you can do walking on trails. Public gardens, right, are just second to none. Colonial Park Garden and the Roses in Leonard Buck, once you understand the history of that and how that was laid out, plus Natarar. And then I like to play golf. I have 3 sons, and that's what what we do together, right? They don't want to go shopping with me, so we end up, I learn to play golf. And our golf courses are just beautiful and affordable and really beautiful public golf courses that get national recognition.
Yeah, I think I have family who've come in from the Midwest, and I always tell them to come in May and June so they can go see the Roses. I grew up in South Jersey. I'm not going to bash any specific counties, but it's almost an education process you have to go through here because you don't assume that the county offers the amenities they do.
Yep.
And that could be a completely separate podcast. So what's your favorite vacation spot if you need to get out of Somerset County?
Well, I'm a New Jersey girl, right? So I love the shore. I like to go down to the Jersey Shore. I love the beach, and it's something that I can get to pretty quickly, especially, during the spring and summer when you just need a complete change. In an hour, you can get someplace that makes you feel a lot further away than you are.
Do you hop all over, or do you have a specific town you like to go to?
So I spent almost all of my life going to Lavalette.
Okay.
And,
Yep.
so that is always and then only recently now are we heading a little south of Exit 98, which was like a whole new world. And so I've, hanging out in Long Beach Island, and that's really nice too.
Yeah. I grew up in Seaside, so we had to go south for it to feel like the beach. So we would go to like Wildwood or
boardwalk.
Cape May, but that's my favorite spot. And Jessica?
So I'm going to give a plug for Kansas City, Missouri. And my family, we're trying to see all 50 states, and I have a lot of rules about how much time we have to spend there. And so we've been exploring some new areas. And Kansas City is very family-friendly and very affordable. As an economic developer, I love sort of learning about the businesses and the industries in an area. Kansas City used to have one of the largest puppet making factories in the world. And so we went to a puppetry institute where we could actually work with the puppets from the factory. We could make them. We could do a little theater show. Hallmark is one of their top employers there, and they have a Hallmark visitor center where you can go see all of the ornaments that have been designed over the years. We went to the Money Museum with the Federal Reserve, and just a lot of beautiful parks. So if you have never thought about going to Kansas City, I encourage you to look into it.
Yeah. We'll have to talk offline, because
yeah.
I did me and my buddy in October flew to Nebraska to see Rutgers play, and then we did a road trip down through Missouri to Oklahoma. We literally went to the Oklahoma state line, took a picture, and we said we were in Oklahoma, and we left. So I don't know, is that against the rules?
No, it's got to be 24 hours. You have
Oh,
to stay
no,
overnight.
then I'm in trouble. So,
yeah. Well, we went into Kansas to a couple of playgrounds, and so my husband's like, great, we checked that off. I'm like, no, we're going back to Kansas. So, and then this summer we're going to Spain, my family with my sister and brother-in-law and their 2 kids. So would love to come back at some point and tell you all about that.
Yeah, we'll get you on the tourism podcast. So, well, thank you both for joining us
Thank
for
you.
this edition of The Scoop. Thank you, Somerset County, for listening, and have a great day. Awesome. Yeah.